While no one would give us a job, and through no lack of trying on our side, the support system in Australia at that time did recognize that migrants do need financial assistance to survive, and we were provided that assistance. That was the only way we could have a roof over our head and food on the table for the first few months that we came to a new country where we literally knew no one. My husband started to drive a taxi as soon as he got a license and he passed the tests. We are still here, 27 years on. I studied here. I worked here as a civil and environmental engineer, in local government, in consulting firms, as an academic. We're still here because we were supported in those early days. Like us, millions of other migrants who come here contribute to our society as much as any other Australian. To punish migrants as soon as they arrive here, when we invited them here, is absolutely despicable. And it's pretty rich of Labor to come in here and tell us that we don't understand the complexities. Well, I'll tell you what, I've lived those complexities, so don't come in here and preach to me. And the verbal gymnastics that Labor senators today are playing is absolutely fascinating, pretending that they have no choice but to vote for this terrible bill is shameful. You do have a choice. Vote against this horrific xenophobic bill. How can we set migrants up for success in Australia if we penalize them at the very time that they and their families need it most? This bill and others like this feed into this government's rhetoric that all immigrants come here just to access the social security system. Despite the dog whistling that happens in this place, people are trying to work hard and live through difficult times. But just like anyone else, migrants can also fall through hard times. What this government, in cahoots with Labor, is doing is taking away that security net and potentially allowing tens of thousands of people to fall through it. Migrants pay income tax. We pay the GST. We pay every other tax that any other Australian pays. But you want to treat us as second-class citizens. If someone is caring for someone with a disability or a severe illness, perhaps their child or their partner, what exactly is Labor and the government's advice for them in that first year that they are now excluding them from carer payments? If a migrant loses their job or is made redundant or takes some time to find another job, what shall they do? Where should they go? And tell me, senators, what should they go without? Food? Medicine? A roof over their heads? This bill has been rushed through. It wasn't even on the Senate agenda this week, and it has been rushed through the lower house last night. Shamefully with Labor sitting not in opposition, but cozying up to the government to stitch up this dirty deal, this attack on migrants. Shame on you, Labor. Here we are this morning debating a bill with the weak opposition getting ready to wave it through. Have some integrity. The committee report into this bill had barely been printed when the government decided to rush it through. We know, and the inquiry into this bill stated very clearly, that the vast majority of recent migrants do not require access to the welfare social security system unless they really need it. But those who do need it now will not be able to access Newstart welfare payments for their first 4 years in Australia under this extremely dirty deal. This means that any migrant family will not be able to access this support even if they lose their jobs. This is creating another class of people in this country, a second class of people who cannot access the safety nets available to all the rest of us. This is a punitive and a deeply unfair measure that has a terrible stench of xenophobia. As a migrant, I find Labour's position on this disgusting, and cowardly. If you are going to stab migrants in the back, look us in the face as you do it. Don't pretend that you're doing it for our own good. Don't sit here and pretend you had no other option when it is your votes that will pass this bill. The government may be trying to couch this as a money savings in the budget, but it's nothing more than yet another attack on migrants, which this government and the weak and complicit Labour opposition have cooked up together. Let's tax the coal mining companies who get billions of dollars in subsidy, money that belongs to Australian taxpayers. The Greens also have plenty of other ideas to offer to this government to craft a better and fairer budget. But attacking migrants is definitely not one of them. Labour needs to show some guts. We know that you don't really have a backbone, but show some guts today and vote against this horrible piece of legislation. The Australian Lawyers Alliance summed it up, I thought, pretty well when they said in their submission to the bill's inquiry, and this is what they said, and I quote, "Whilst the title of the bill is encouraging self-sufficiency for newly arrived migrants, we don't see it as encouraging self-sufficiency so much as being highly punitive and certainly not achieving any laudable or plausible aim." The Australian Lawyers Alliance further said in their submission, and I quote, "We're not aware of any evidence at all that suggests there is a link between increasing self-sufficiency on the part of migrants and delaying payments for a period of a further year. In other words, discriminating in an active fashion. I'm not aware of that evidence. If there is evidence and data, we'd be happy to see it, but we're certainly not aware of it." This is true. There is not a shred of evidence that supports increasing the wait times for migrants to access social security. There is already a waiting period, and the Department of Social Services' own submission fails to provide any rationale for why it needs to be extended at all. This is a disgusting, xenophobic attack by the Liberal and Labour parties, and you should be all ashamed of it.